is now going to line up with that original registration line. And you want it even. And then put down, when you have it all set up, lock down these feet. So I have it set where I want, put these little feet down, and then it's in there, ready to go. This tongue can be out as far as you want it to be. That will help hold your paper down. So I'm going to do the other two. The registration pins are very, very essential because that's what makes this whole printing process very quick, because you can slide your paper into where these registration pins are, and you don't have to worry about where you're placing it, all that stuff. You can just put it in, keep treadling, it'll print, and you're good to go. So now I have all 3 registration pins set up. Always, always remember that if your composition is quite too, so say this is your paper and your lead type is wanting to go all the way to the end, but you have a registration pin there, account for more paper, because if you don't account for more paper, your lead type will actually print onto the registration pin, and not just print onto it, it will crush it, and the registration pin will get crushed, the lead type will get scratched up, your paper will be damaged. Account for a good border around your composition to allow for the registration pins. It's really important to do that, and it'll just make everything easier. So I tend not to print on my template because I like to keep it just in case, say this registration sucks for some reason, or I want to change it. I like to keep the template clean. It's really hard to register with a template that has printing on it. So that's where it's good to have some extra pieces of paper that are the same size as what you intend to print on, but that are basically for proofs. And as you know, in printing, there is lots of proofing that happens. So what I'm going to do is do a quick proof of this guy. I'm going to turn the wheel, engage the press, and that is my proof. So then after doing this proof, I can look at this and be like, oh, I maybe need some more ink, or I need some more packing, or blah, blah, or whatever. After you've done this, you can proceed with other elements of the printing process. But if you are good with this, then you can take your paper, disengage the press, start the wheel going away from you, start the treadle, and you're going to want to put your paper in, down, and then to the side. So have them sort of fanned out. If they're a weird paper, you know, it's good to have them fanned out if you want to keep it going quick. But down and to the side. And you want to make sure that you're underneath the tongues of the registration pins. So down to the side, engage the press, and just keep going. I find it easiest to put paper in with my right hand and take it out with my left. But that would be, this is set up as in that orientation, so if you're left-handed, that will just still have to be maybe how it goes. But yeah, so then I've printed all of this, and when you're done printing, things like the Mylar, so taking out the registration pins, you can just unclamp the little feet, take them out, to the side. Ideally, they get put right back into the bowl that they live in and then back onto the shelf. The Mylar just gets cleaned with a little bit of rubbing alcohol and some blue shop towel. And so if you, say you do an impression onto the Mylar to register your print, say something happens, you need to do another impression onto the Mylar, a little bit of rubbing alcohol takes it right off, and then you're not having to find another piece of Mylar or print on a different area. You can use this Mylar over and over and over. It's something that you keep, put it into your paper drawer. This is a very useful tool. But yeah, rubbing alcohol and blue shop towel, no problem. And that is basically it. So yeah, everything then just gets cleaned up, taken off the press. The tympans can be used sometimes twice. So, you know, they don't have to be used just once. I sometimes will overuse a tympan, but I know how to register things and just make sure that it gets all, that it's working correctly. If you have trouble figuring out the lines, getting the registration pins in, you can use a tympan once. Sometimes though, if you have a small thing like this, but then you maybe are gonna print something that's bigger, you can use the same tympan. So sometimes they're not just a one-time use thing, but sometimes they are. So that's up to your discretion. And yeah, you'll wanna take all your tools with you when you leave so that the next person who is going to print will have an ideal working space. I'm going to take the chase off here, and it's just the same as before, lifting this handle, taking it off. I'm going to put it just to the side right here for the sake of time. But taking out the rollers, it's very simple, exactly the way that you did it, except I go from the top down. So, and I start on the opposite side. So instead of working over here, I go on this side, take this out, pull this out, put it into the cradle, do the same here, take it out, same with this one, and out. This is ready to be cleaned. Take the chase back over to the table over here. Go ahead right away and clean it. Go right away and clean it with a white cloth and a tiny bit of oil on the cloth, but does not a lot of oil, just a little bit. I find that it's easier to clean your type when it's still locked up, because once it's unlocked, it's all like flopping around and it's a little bit more awkward. So clean the type while it's still locked up. Once it's cleaned, you can unlock it, take the chase up, put the furniture away, slide your form back onto your galley, and put your form away. So that's a really quick overview of setting up the press, registration, locking up the chase. Yeah.